Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With the latest WWE edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here to break down everything that happened over the last week in the world of WWE. Unlike last week, where we made an audible and decided to give you 2 WWE episodes, we're going back to basics, the way we've operated for pretty much the entirety of this podcast history. 1 WWE episode. Of course, we will be back Thursday talking AAA, NXT, and AEW. But before we get into today's show, allow the Silver King to remind you off the top here at the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast.
It's all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, Vintage, Chris Vanini, and Getting Over. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show on YouTube. You can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. Hit the link on our profile. Join our free Slack channel. Subscribe to the show and much more. Make sure you hit us up on social media at Getting Overcast. Vintage, for the first time in a long time, Silver King is on vacation this week. So I had time to put this show together, give it even more attention than it normally receives. I've also already watched 2 movies in the theaters this week I'm very excited to talk about. I went and saw The Odyssey a second time. Phenomenal. I also got to watch Spider-Man Brand New World. I know you're into the Marvel movies as well. Did you get a chance to watch that yet?
I've seen it. It's actually Brand New Day, not Brand New World.
Brand New Day. Excuse me. Good call.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Honestly, the worst of the 3, Tom Holland's, I think. Or no, there's been 4.
4.
Right? 4?
Yeah, 4.
Worst of the 4. Just because the villain was not up to the level I'd kind of want it to be. I've seen The Odyssey a bunch. Or I've seen The Odyssey once legally, a couple times not so legally. Enjoy it. I did finally see Toy Story 5 over the weekend.
How was that?
Loved it. Great. It approached things in a careful, delicate way I didn't expect. Loved it. And then I also watched the Green Lantern show on Sunday night, the new HBO show.
I saw that too.
Terrific pilot.
Whew. That Lantern show on HBO Max, dude. There's something to it. Like if they nail that and get it right, and reviews are positive. I think reviewers and critics have been able to see 7 of the 8 episodes and they are hugely positive for it. But if they get that right and they do the buddy cop dynamic, I'm not going to give away what happened in the first episode, and they just continue building on that. And because both of those guys are legitimate Green Lantern characters, is my understanding. I'm not a comic book nerd. I just really watch the movies and the TV shows, and I'm not going to go back and read all that shit for, decades that this stuff has existed. But if they get that right, it's going to be phenomenal. Another potential HBO win, and kind of a James Gunn win too, right? Because of Peacemaker with John Cena. That thing was phenomenal over there as well. Brand New Day, completely disagree. I actually think it was perhaps Tom Holland's best Spider-Man movie. Now, I'm not counting like Avengers or other ones where he's a side character, but the 4 vehicles that he's led, I thought it might have been the best. You're 1,000% right that the villain is not such a villain where you're concerned about, the world or New York City in totality.
It's not a villain that's going to main event WrestleMania.
It's not. But this was so much, we kind of go back to what we talk about on this show a lot. There was so much storytelling and character development throughout this particular film.
Yeah, Tom Holland is very good.
And they needed it because the third one, you know what these are called. I don't. The one with Doctor Strange, the last one. It was fun that like the 3 Spider-Men, I guess, were all part of it. And there was some cool callbacks and an interesting kind of conclusion to it. But it also left you really dissatisfied where you're like, oh, so no one knows him anymore. And like, he's just supposed to survive. Like, how does that character survive? That's why I liked this so much. I just thought they crushed it. So a lot of momentum moving into Avengers Doomsday, right? That's the big film for this winter. And pretty excited for it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know if Dave Bautista will be in that.
We don't. Yeah.
As Drax, not sure. But to me, my Spider-Man is still Tobey Maguire, the guy who beat Macho Man Randy Savage in the cage match.
I mean, look, Toby did a good job, but it's certainly not Andrew Garfield. Let's put it that way. But
Bonesaw is ready.
Tom Holland for me clears the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, not even close. And I'll tell you this: I was so into this Spider-Man, so I watched Daredevil originally on Netflix. I never watched the Punisher show, and then because of that, I didn't keep up with like the new Daredevil on Disney Plus. I went back last night and I watched the first 4 episodes of Punisher. That's how much I enjoyed this Spider-Man. So little spoiler there, though I think most people know Punisher is part of this film. Regardless, I said we weren't going to talk about something other than wrestling at the start of the show before we began recording. Silver King, in this one case, rare, clearly a liar. Let's move into discussing WWE. Vintage SmackDown this week felt like someone listened to both of our episodes last week, nodded along, saying, good point, took notes, and then corrected the trajectory of the show's booking this week. I'm not suggesting that's literally what happened. I'm explaining how well booked the episode was to my taste and how much of a departure it was from the heavily criticized episode last week. And it was not only about what happened on screen either. WWE posted a handful of videos on social media that did not make air, the antithesis of what normally happens. And most of those were solid too. Now, we're going to go over those at the end of the show. Even though the Boston crowd was up and down, it was far better than expected, top to bottom, probably one of the best SmackDowns of the year. The only real issues were overall match quality, which was lower than it should be, and match time. Nothing went beyond 10 minutes, but there were 2 long promo segments and an extended brawl in the main event. It made it more acceptable this week for there to be short matches than most because a lot of other stuff happened, hence why so many of those other segments did not make air. Raw on Monday started out as a slog, but seriously ratcheted up over the latter half. All 5 matches were quality, the complete opposite of SmackDown. 4 of them right again around that 10-minute mark. The 2 Lucha matches were largely better positioned than last week's opener, and the main event segment completely delivered. There's still a massive talent gap on Raw. There's some uneven divisions that need to be rectified. The men's main event, the entirety of the women's division. But overall, the booking has improved substantially coming out of SummerSlam. That was our hope. And this was one of the better weeks of TV, Raw and SmackDown combined, since WrestleMania.
That SmackDown felt like somebody listened to our show last week or the last couple of weeks, really.
That's what I'm saying.
And just did all the things we suggested.
Yeah.
And it was a great show. And and I don't say that to be like, we're booking geniuses. I say that to say that they just got back to basic fundamental wrestling stuff. Like get your baby faces over, get heat on your heels, like make it clear who's a good guy and who's a bad guy for the most part. And people will react the way you want them to react. A much needed course correction. I'm excited to talk about it, actually.
I am as well, and we're not going to waste any further time getting to it. Let's kick off our entire breakdown of Raw and SmackDown, as we always do, by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
And we're going to open with something that you never would have guessed we would open with 1 week ago. Nick Aldis began SmackDown in the ring, announcing Chelsea Green as the WWE Women's Champion, no interim label. But he was using a somber tone as he explained, and she revealed her broken orbital bone. The bottom third graphic still referred to her as the interim champion, the same inconsistency, by the way, as last week. Aldis said he and the trainers will not let her compete with a broken eye socket, and while she pleaded with him, he asked her to relinquish the title. The crowd was firmly in her corner, chanting no, as Chelsea began relating her story. Something going wrong every time she finds success in WWE. She explained how she's always the comic relief, the person putting over others, never allowed to truly find success despite all of her sacrifices, including having the entire world laugh at her. Green yelled at Aldis for not empathizing, given what he went through at SummerSlam. Chelsea seemed to refuse his request. She said, quote, "Until someone takes this off me, this is mine." And fans chanted yes in the affirmative. And yet, she still handed him the belt and walked out, which was odd. However, Aldis stopped her as she got near the stage, saying the general manager in him said one thing, the man in him changed his mind. He's not stripping her of the title. Chelsea has 30 days to get healthy and defend the championship before vacating it. The crowd went wild until Gunther incredibly interrupted them, which was extremely well timed both for comedy and for heat. He demanded answers for SummerSlam. Aldis said he was putting his nose where it didn't belong. Gunther talked down to Chelsea for only climbing a ladder and grabbing a title, whereas he pulled double duty and made a man tap out in front of his family. Aldis explained that Kevin Owens was always going to be in that number one contendership match. Gunther was the one who got added as a favor. So Chelsea mocked him. Gunther told her to shut up. She shot right back in his face that his tiny, fragile male ego was clearly offended, considering she was the only champion standing in the ring and he was not. So Gunther gets in her grill. Matt Cardona predictably runs in. Gunther delivers a great deadpan funny line about him making it there really fast from catering and how he could talk shit to Green and call her every slur he wants, and Cardona would do nothing about it. Gunther does not get credit for being one of the low-key funniest guys in WWE. Ultimately, Cardona snapped. That led to an attack and a match. Vintage, what an effing segment. Dare I say, perfection achieved. Literal night and day difference from last week's utter bullshit booking of Chelsea. And all that was required for her to be taken seriously by creative and given a meaty segment was breaking a damn orbital bone. She had 10 times more runway to speak, express herself, and engender support here than in her championship celebration last week, which is insane if you think about that. Green stood up to Gunther like a badass after last week putting over Tiffany Stratton before taking the fall in a meaningless tag team match. How did the same creative team book these two shows? This was more time than Chelsea has ever received on a single episode of TV. She was able to take the reality of being a mid-card comedy act, flip it into a reason she deserves to keep the world title, and she did it without breaking kayfabe. That's impossible. Attaching Gunther to Green worked for both of them, and it was another example of how natural intergender on-screen interactions can make characters more interesting and more relatable. And that's on top of the well-executed swerve that took the fans on a ride, leading to an outpouring of emotions for Chelsea and even Nick, who was presented as someone similarly fighting an uphill battle who was made emotional based on her words. Even beyond that, this gave Cardona's character some much-needed establishment, and it made Gunther look like an even more dastardly heel interacting with both of them. Sneaky, fresh 10 out of 10 segment, one of the best in wrestling any brand in 2026, though I did have a couple of notes. Could have done without Green handing Aldis the title back. If you're going to stand on business, refuse to relinquish. Aldis's change of heart could have still occurred in the ring before she left or before she was about to hand it over. Also, why was he immediately asking Chelsea to relinquish when he did not have that same energy for Rhea Ripley, especially considering she could not defend the title? Liv Morgan over on Raw, who did not defend the title in 100 days, forget about 30. These are nitpicks. The latter, though, is a legitimate plot hole. Why is she being held to a completely different standard than those other women? I digress. Chelsea engendered so much sympathy from the crowd. She showed so much character and actually flexed legitimate acting chops beyond what she's been able to do throughout her entire WWE career. This screamed authenticity, which is tough to find in wrestling these days. While I doubt WWE is like self-aware enough to realize how badly they screwed up her booking last week, I'm willing to consider this atonement for that piss poor creative, because this was straight up excellent, and Vintage, it was basically professional wrestling at its absolute best.
Well, that's what I mean. It's simple. That's all it needed to be. What an idea to treat your women's world champion as a big deal and also have the babyface tell their sympathetic backstory. Turns out people are into that. They had never told that Chelsea Green story on this show. They had only told it on Unreal, the Netflix show you had to go watch separately.
Mm-hmm.
It's like such a basic character point for Chelsea Green. Like they should have been telling that story leading up to her trying to win the championship. Like it turned out to be a surprise that she won it, but then she didn't even really do it the next week either. And so they still had this terrific, easy to tell story to fall back on, and they found a great way to use it. And what's a great way to get heat on your heel? Have them interrupt your new big baby face, especially if it's a woman. And so Gunther does that. He does great stuff. Chelsea looks strong by standing up for herself in front of that heel. And then Cardona does what he does to get something out of it. It's just basic storytelling fundamentals that are just so often lacking. And it's like, we don't need these complicated ideas or stories or grand ideas, just have your baby faces be baby faces and your heels be heels. And it turns out people are going to love it. This was terrific. I loved it. Every part of it.
By the way, Mickie James, Aldis's wife, called this one of the greatest promos she has ever watched. This is Mickie James saying that. It means a lot to me. Like, she's a veteran in this industry. She's not only heard and watched women's promos from WWE when she was growing up, WCW, AEW, I'm sure, TNA. She's been part of creative teams and helped craft promos. And she's saying this is one of the best she's ever watched. It stood out to that end. This may be vintage Chelsea's version of like Becky Lynch getting her nose broken. Not that she should be expected to go on a long run as a strong champion and perhaps the GOAT, but rather this may have changed the trajectory of her career in terms of how seriously she is taken by the creative team. Was this the best women's segment since Bianca Belair and Naomi?
I mean, I don't exactly know the timeline. I mean, AJ and Becky had some really good stuff.
The Becky Lynch one with CM Punk was tremendous.
Yeah, Becky and Punk, if that counts.
That was great.
But your point there is the important one. Chelsea got to look strong. She has never gotten to look strong before. That is how long this goes or how successful this is going to come down to that. She can be the underdog who, comes through and wins like a Daniel Bryan type or something like that. She doesn't have to be a big, she doesn't have to be a big, strong person. But are they going to keep her character this way where she does logical things and things fans, or is she going to go back to comic relief at some point and with Tiffy or something? They just got to stick with it, because we've been saying for weeks, maybe months on this show, Chelsea Green is more over than Tiffany Stratton. And this is an opportunity now to lean into that and show what Chelsea can really do here and potentially figure out something that fits better for Tiffy. If you had Tiffany Stratton turn heel on Chelsea Green, like, that's going to sell tickets, man. Like there's so much you can do here. People are behind her. Give fans reasons to stick with her.
That is precisely what needs to happen, and we'll come back and talk about it in a little bit. But the goal moving forward now with Chelsea, she does not need to be serious or a dominant wrestler for the remainder of her career, but you need to run with it now. You have to legitimize her. You have to tell fans that she's a serious competitor and allow her to continue building this character and engender sympathy, empathy, and just appreciation from the crowd that is watching her. And then she can lose the title. And then, 6-9 months, a year from now, however long, yes, you can put her back into a comedy role. She loves doing it. She is not ever, from my understanding, said, no, I don't want to do that, or that makes me look silly or stupid. She's okay being the butt of the joke. And there is so much value in having wrestlers like her, like The Miz, who are more than capable in the ring, but they're awesome character actors outside of it. And yes, they're willing to do dumb, stupid shit to make people laugh. She can go back to that eventually. She can't go back to that immediately. And that's largely what I believe you were saying. So moving off of this and into the rest of what transpired in and around what Chelsea Green universe on Friday night, Cardona fought Gunther. This started coming back from commercial with both guys appropriately in street clothes because it was an impromptu match. Again, not hard.
Thank you.
So much better visually. Gunther destroyed Cardona with a powerbomb into the announce table, another into the ring apron. He added a Rainmaker inside, but after Cardona took a high-angle suplex, Gunther trash-talked Chelsea. The referee got distracted as she hopped on the apron. Who wouldn't be? That gave Cardona an opening for a low blow and Rough Rider. Gunther kicked out, landing a couple big powerbombs before winning via submission with a Boston Crab in Boston. Irresistible Forces interrupted after the bell as Green was consoling her husband. Nia Jax received zero reaction, cutting a promo, saying she would have no problem continuing her tradition of breaking faces and doing it with Green. Stratton tried to save her friend. She got destroyed 2-on-1 as Green yelled for help. Solid, short match that was really all it needed to be, considering the significant gap between their stations on the card. I'm talking about Gunther and Cardona. Cardona's hope spot allowed your eyes to open for a second as a viewer, and then Gunther closed the door and got the job done. The best part was the double powerbomb into the Boston Crab, a far superior submission for Gunther compared to the boring sleeper hold, even if it was only done for thematic purposes in Boston. And it related directly to the opening promo. Gunther tapped Aldis out in front of his family. He did the same to Cardona in front of his family. The post-match was rough. Chelsea looking helpless and Tiffany saving her despite the massive physical disadvantage. That got Stratton over with the crowd as a babyface, which has been like pulling teeth of late. It also gave her a potential out to drop the United States Championship later in the show. 3 segments to open SmackDown where it was tough to ask for more. Chelsea was on TV for 30 minutes to begin the show, and everything here accomplished so much for Green, Cardona, Gunther, to a lesser extent, Irresistible Forces, but definitely Stratton as well.
Great stuff all around. Gunther looked even more physically imposing in street clothes, like a lot of wrestlers do. And getting him to tap out, not even a pin, but a tap out is a real like kind of FU type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder, back in the early 2010s when John Cena kind of stole Zack Ryder's girlfriend, and then Kane pushed him off the thing in the wheelchair. is that like as a man, like which one is worse between those? I
that
guess
one's worse.
Probably the first one.
Yeah, that one's worse.
But I couldn't help. I couldn't stop thinking about this, and it does come up later in the show. It's something we'll talk about, but it makes sense. It makes Cardona look weak, but he has no reason not to. Now, could you turn this into something for Cardona? Potentially, if they want to. But this is really about Chelsea and someone standing up for her in the situations that she can't confront Gunther, while also making sure Gunther stays hot and a heel and all that stuff. Really good.
As far as I'm concerned, Cardona gained from these segments. Yeah, he lost to Gunther. Everyone loses to Gunther. He stood up for his wife. He nearly got the victory. Yeah, he tapped out. Okay.
No, I agree. Like, and it's better than not being on television or being like, where was Matt Cardona? So, like,
right.
you had to do it. Everything in the whole first 30 minutes of the show made sense.
Yeah.
And that's just such a breath of fresh air. As for the Nia and the Irresistible Forces, it was fine. Like, it makes sense as someone, again, Chelsea's the champion. You want to put her, she's got a lot of babyface heat. Put her with the heel who people don't like. That's Nia Jax. Now, they didn't ultimately end up maybe booing totally the way we would have wanted, but it's the complete opposite of what we did with Chad Gable, which is he's winning the title, but he's only fighting baby faces.
Right.
And it's a little bit weird. This will get people more behind Chelsea Green.
You also need to give Chelsea some wins, and like beating Nia does not hurt Nia. Obviously, she can take any L.
No, I think that's a good win.
Oh, it's a strong win for Chelsea if she gets it. 100%. Yeah. But I'm saying it doesn't hurt Nia at all. She's, lower mid card
Agreed.
At this point. She's not really someone who should be a champion.
As weird as it is to say, Nia is over in the fact that she is at a level I think that she'll always be at.
She's at
I don't think
Braun Strowman Big Show later in their career level where like you bring them in, they can take an L that makes the babyface look good, and then you don't have to use them. That's fine.
But I also think more than those two though, I could see Nia getting another world title run or two.
I don't think so.
Even if briefly.
I don't think she holds another title outside of maybe the tag team titles again.
I think she might.
All right, we'll find out. And wrapping this part up, United States Championship, Stratton defending against JC Jane. Chelsea checked on Tiffy backstage, who insisted she was happy to help her despite getting hurt. She clarified she still intended to defend her title. This was the final match on the show, the question being whether Chelsea would help Tiffy or Stratton would drop the title after being given an out earlier. I was assuming fatal influence, distraction, and interference. Stratton hit the Cartwheel Alabama Slam and Swanton Bomb out of the break, the latter nearly taking the wind out of Jane. Tiffy landed her whole body on JC's chest and ribs. Stratton added a handspring stunner, rolling senton, but Jane barely got her knees up to prevent prettiest moonsault ever. Chelsea stopped Fallon Henley from interfering with Tiffy, choosing to splash the non-combatants rather than focus on her opponent. As soon as she re-entered the ring, Jane drilled her with rolling encore, flipping the championship on the dime and winning her first ever main roster singles title. Shout out to the referee who did a great job in the finish. The cover was not tight. They had to reposition. She quickly jumped over to the other side of their bodies and restarted the count. Turned a potential botch into something we're only mentioning to heap praise on her. This was a no-brainer decision, not only to put over Fatal Influence as a legitimate top-tier threat on SmackDown, but because Jane as champion is far more interesting and even better, fresher than Stratton continuing to hold that title. Also positive is that Jane won relatively clean. Stratton cost herself. In a way, it's rather unfortunate for Tiffy because she won the strap when she was still struggling in her return, and she lost it after what may have been the best or second best recent match she's put on, especially in singles competition. Rolling Encore looked devastating as a finisher, and there will almost certainly now be angst between Stratton and Green over the WWE Championship, considering Tiffy helped Chelsea, and that ultimately cost her the U.S. title. It may well eventually be Stratton turning heel and beating Green, becoming the title holder who ultimately fights Rhea Ripley upon her return. There's a lot of ways they can go with this, but they gave Tiffy an out from the earlier save, and then they gave her another out because she was stupid babyface and went after the other heels. It was really smart booking across the board, not just in terms of Stratton, but Jane emerging as a legitimate threat and United States champion.
Good enough wrestling and a good result that made sense, and a heel being smart. We love that. It was also a bit weird. It's always weird when there's like a 3-person group and there are two of them that have tag team belts and the person in the middle doesn't have a belt. You kind of just naturally don't look as strong. Mm-hmm. So for Fatal Influence to have all the gold now is a great look. And it comes after, I don't know, a month or so ago, we were wondering like what happened to them, like kind of what's really going on. So a good pivot, a lot of different stories they can tell. Fatal Influence has been very good. JC Jane's been very good so far, and well-deserved and good storytelling.
JC Jane's arc is incredible. She went from doing nothing, basically, to being in a group, to then leading that group, winning
being the third person in that group.
The third person originally. Gigi Dolan, right. She was the third wheel in Toxic Attraction, goes to leading Fatal Influence, winning the NXT title in shocking fashion. One of the biggest shock title changes that we've seen in years. Growing as champion, defeating one person after another who everyone assumed would beat her, taking down the entirety of the NXT women's division, and now winning a singles title just a few months into her main roster run. That is phenomenal. And there are some fair comparisons booking-wise to how Fatal Influence is being positioned on SmackDown compared to when The Shield debuted on WWE TV. There was literally a time early in their run where Dean Ambrose was United States champion with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins holding the tag team titles. Now look, it is highly unlikely any of the 3 Influence members reach the level of those guys as main eventers. And yet, I've said this before, Jane and Fallon Henley have an opportunity to have similar runs of success in that women's division. They are both world champion caliber. I'm not saying Fatal Influence is going to be the next Shield. What I'm saying is they're off to a similar start, and they have the horses, at least 2 of them, to potentially be close a decade, 15 years from now.
Maybe. I think, the Shield debuted in a CM Punk championship match, and they were attacking The Rock and a lot of stuff. So like it was a higher level.
Fatal Influence debuted against the top woman in the entire company, Rhea Ripley, and got booed out of the building. I'm just saying.
Yes. So we'll see. It's been a little bit up and down. Had some had several losses to Paige and Brie there, but it's on the right track. So I think most of us kind of won't remember what happened between the debut and then winning the titles in history. So we'll just go from here moving forward.
Yeah, it's not like they had to be booked incredibly strong that entire time, but there was a gap where it's like, why aren't you even using them? Which was absolutely ridiculous. Wrapping up this overarching storyline from SmackDown, Finn Balor backstage told Aldis he needed time to cool off last week, which is why he was not at SmackDown. In reality, he was promoting WWE with Becky Lynch in Ireland. Balor told Aldis he understood why Owens and Gunther were added to the number 1 contendership, but he at least deserved a heads up. Though Aldis agreed, Gunther interrupted to criticize the GM, big-timing Balor while still, wanting to sort out the SummerSlam booking. Gunther acted like Balor was a shadow of himself, so Balor called him a condescending prick, saying he would do whatever it takes to get a WWE championship shot, including beating Gunther's ass and proving himself. This feud is literally 6 years in the making. They were supposed to fight at NXT UK TakeOver Dublin in 2020. the event got canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They did fight once on TV in 2024. It was not a feud, and it was largely forgettable, even though it was a quality match. But this was a great segment. It properly related Balor's current positioning and how someone like Gunther would likely view him. Finn continues to get strong responses, including a pop when he stood up to Gunther here. I continue to hope WWE sees that and books him accordingly.
It was interesting and a good follow-up to last week and kind of just explaining things. Again, standing up for himself a little bit, considering all the guys who got added to the match. I mean, we're not great in it, but I'd say it was good.
Yeah, certainly was. And I forgot to do this after the Chelsea Green promo. So even though it's probably 10 minutes delayed, Chelsea, this is for you.
Oh! Yes! I love that!
And honestly, that it's applicable to pretty much everyone that was involved in these segments. Chelsea, Tiffy, they both did well. Aldis, Gunther, Balor, JC Jane, and Fatal Influence. Like it was just like thumbs up after thumbs up after thumbs up for this extended storyline throughout the entirety of SmackDown. This, top to bottom, got more time on the show than Kevin Owens, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton combined. And it was a great episode because of it.
That what you just said right there. There was an extended storyline throughout the show. We do not get that very often anymore. And when we do, it makes the whole show feel alive. It felt like Triple H era booking early on.
And it was the first time in a long time vintage that they did a show-long storyline that did not involve the main eventers or a major faction like the Bloodline or Judgment Day. Kevin Owens opened hour 2 of SmackDown, immediately getting interrupted by CM Punk. Owens sat on the top turnbuckle, watching all of this transpire as Punk opened the door for him to speak and then cut him off with his tagline. This was a 16-minute segment. And as I mentioned last week, I'm going to do my best on this show to cut down the he said aspects of heavily involved back and forth confrontations. I'm going to replace them with truncated clips as long as I have the time to do it. And there's probably no feud that requires the actual words being uttered, hearing those on this podcast as opposed to Silver King relating them, than CM Punk and Kevin Owens. So while I am going to air some clips, there will be interjections and conversation as this goes. So here was the first, let's call it meaty section of the Owens Punk promo from Friday.
You know, it's pretty ironic that you come out here talking about me saying things to your face. Because last week we were in this ring a foot away from each other, and yet you chose to be all the way down there with your back turned to call me, what was it, a fat slob? 20 years ago, me and Phil wrestled for the same independent promotion, and he was the big top guy. I was just someone trying to make a name for myself, and on that night, you chose to berate me, insult me, and scream at me in a locker room full of my peers. See, I don't like you for a lot of reasons. That's one of them. But it's also what happened in the last 20 years. The person you've been, the things you've said, the things you've done, the way you've treated people I care about, good friends of mine.
Oh, which ones? Think you're going to have to be a little bit more specific. I'm pretty sure your friends hate me.
Hey, you might think I'm talking about only 3 of them, but trust me, every friend I have in this industry hates you because they see right through you.
Being hated by losers is the price I pay for not being one of them.
First of all, A+ final line right there by Punk. For those not fully informed, this was the airing of their dirty laundry from Ring of Honor, which started with Punk questioning Owens wrestling in a t-shirt, mocking his weight, and then stuff unraveling from there. You can dig into that more yourself. We're not going to spend time on it today. The latter part was a reference to the Elite and AEW. Owens is particularly close with the Young Bucks, though it extends into other stuff too. And while some of us watching live got it, the crowd largely did not. It was Punk's latest attempt to reference his recent past that has fallen flat on TV. And while that should be a positive indication to him and WWE that AEW is so comparatively irrelevant that the fan base does not pop for the references or know the associated drama exists, I kind of wonder if it's him intentionally trying to prove a point, because those references are met with resounding silence, near total crickets, not even a spattering of ooh, which was surprising because they were in a larger market in Boston. What popped me most was Punk, likely off script, daring Owens to name the 3 guys, which was identical to what happened in the Drew McIntyre promo when he tried to goad him into saying Vince McMahon. Owens had a similar smirk on his face like the one McIntyre wore, like knowing exactly what Punk was trying to do, but flying past it because they're experts on the mic. So that was kind of the way I was feeling at this juncture of the promo.
Several times since Punk has come back, he's made AEW references that get no reaction because I really think the crowd doesn't know. Now, this one, because it's Kevin Owens, I saw get a lot more online traction than maybe some of the others Punk has said. But I didn't like really think this worked like very much at all, because it felt like well, do you want me to save this for like the whole thing, or do you want me to
let's save it for the end, but I have a feeling I know where you're going. Like, it was very, like, you could listen to it by the way Owens was speaking. It was very slow and monotonous and storytelling and like trying to make sure every word he said landed in case people weren't caught up and didn't want them to get confused. And that promo style, that's what Owens did the entire time. If he had, use like a YouTube, you can choose the speed settings. If he did 1.25 speed or 1.5 speed rather than 1, I think it would have come across a lot better.
I think he had too many things he wanted to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And you have to like remember all of the things you want to bring up while also doing it slowly for people to follow, because it's a thing people don't know. But we can continue the
and ensuring you don't say the things that WWE doesn't want you to say. So you're being very deliberate. That's the word. He was deliberate in the promo, and I think everyone watching wanted energy and excitement.
Yeah.
And just fire back and forth between them. It wasn't fire. It was a slow simmering flame. And I think that was part of the problem. But that was obviously the first part, and there's 4 clips that we're going to be playing. A couple of the others are shorter.
There's one guy left that still doesn't like you, and that's me. Everything you do, everything you say is performative. You, look at me when I'm talking to you. You are a phony. The only reason you came back here and made everything right was because you had no choice. And while you were gone, I'm going to step back. Your breath's a little rough. Regardless of what you think about me, I did pretty well for myself. 12 years consistently in this ring before this injury. And what did I do? I main evented everywhere. I won titles. I became Universal Champion. Something you'll never get to do. I main evented WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin.
You could hear the difference between the first part of the promo and then the rest of it. Just his cadence and his energy and the way the crowd reacted to it there. That's exactly what you and I were talking about a moment ago. One of Punk's all-time dreams was to wrestle Stone Cold, period. He never wrestled him. So this was particularly cutting by Owens, especially being able to rub it in his face that he got the match at WrestleMania in the main event, of all places. The first time we saw KO on Friday, he was actually wearing a Stone Cold shirt walking into the arena.
Not just any Stone Cold shirt, the one that CM Punk wore for the pipe bomb.
Right.
Back in the day, too. Kevin Owens delivered this line to CM Punk like 2 years ago. Before, it might have been around a Rumble or something. They weren't wrestling each other.
That sounds right.
They had one in-ring segment with each other, and Kevin Owens made the same point and said, I main evented WrestleMania, something you've never done and will never do. And it hit a lot better there before Punk main evented 2 WrestleManias in a row.
Yeah.
And so this was like, okay, but the I main evented WrestleMania doesn't quite hit when he's been gone for the last 2 and Punk main evented it, which is really, it's a good point for Punk to come back with. Mm-hmm. So it's a good point. It was just made better like the first time he did it.
Well, the Stone Cold part was the real point here. I got to wrestle like, your idol. I got to,
but that's the it's like, I got to wrestle Stone Cold is like, okay, like it's cool, obviously, but it doesn't hit the same way as like I main evented WrestleMania and you did.
But it was also just a small part, obviously, of this larger promo. But again, it was the energy that really set this apart from the first part. And let's move to the third.
I was happy for you then. I'm happy for you now, but
That's
you honestly think you would have been afforded those opportunities if I was still here?
And tell me why you think I wouldn't have gotten those opportunities. Huh? Because it's the same thing you thought 20 years ago, isn't it? What am I, huh? Just some fat indie slob? A fan who's on the wrong side of the guardrail? Just say it to my face.
Is that what I think of you, or is that what you think of yourself? I'm calling out Obafemi, and I get endometriosis instead.
The only questionable line of this whole promo, it sounded incredibly forced, an attempted rhyme with a simultaneous jab. For those who don't know, endometriosis, I never thought I would say or explain endometriosis on this show. It's a long-term condition women can have when like uterine tissue grows in the pelvis, leading to a wide variety of issues. The idea of the insult is that the bloating from endometriosis was visually represented by KO's gut. I'm not trying to say it was like too highbrow, but it was not casual enough to land like the much simpler insult he dropped later in the promo that I'm going to play in a moment.
Yeah, the only people who know what endometriosis is were offended by him saying this.
Right, because they either had it or their significant other has had it,
Yeah.
and they've dealt with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, my wife has dealt with it. Like
It
it's
sucks.
it's a very serious thing. So it is a very bizarre way to finish here. I have a larger thought that I'll save for the end of the bit, but it ties into what was talked about here, the fat slop stuff.
Sure, and here's the final part.
I look at you and I see a guy that speaks 2 languages when I can barely speak 1. So in my book, that makes you smarter than me. But then I also see a guy that avoids the work, who doesn't try to be at least 1% better every single day. And to me, man, that makes you stupid. I see wasted potential. I see a tough guy, but he's a bum. Hell, if you would have done some of the work, even half the work that I've done in my career, instead of avoiding it, maybe you would have been able to avoid that Bill Goldberg spear that ended the last time you had a championship belt around your waist.
What I see when I look at you is someone who, even though main events at WrestleMania, world titles, all the money, when you go home, I'm convinced you look in the mirror and you hate what you see. I don't. I love who I am. I've always been the same guy. I am the same person you screamed at 20 years ago. And guess what? That fat indie loser is in the same ring as you right now. And he's facing you for the WWE title next week. Being like you probably wouldn't have helped, because after all, you couldn't avoid that Roman Reigns spear at WrestleMania. Man, let me tell you something. I have regretted for 20 years not punching you in the mouth in that locker room. You know why I didn't do it then?
I know why.
No, you don't. It's because if I did, I know you would have ruined my career, and that would have been it. And you know why I'm not gonna do it now? Next week in Toronto, I don't just get to punch you in the face. I waited 20 years, I can wait 7 more days and beat your bitch ass for the WWE title after I do it.
20 years ago, you were a greenhorn who stepped into my locker room and thought you could get away with speaking to me disrespectfully. And you've been crying about the consequences for 20 years. You say you never looked up to me? That's fine by me, because in Toronto, that's exactly what you're gonna do when I put your fat ass to sleep.
Incredibly strong close, but similar to what we discussed a moment ago, the Goldberg and Reigns spear references at the early part of that segment were meh. It was almost an unnecessary and sudden shift into kayfabe during a strong work-shoot confrontation. But the rest of it worked, including the exchange of bitch ass and fat ass. Their perspectives here landed well. Punk not respecting Owens because he's naturally gifted but doesn't put in the work. Owens not respecting Punk for everything that happened to him and his friends previously. Along with Rollins and WWE, Owens has the most valid issues with Punk, which played out here as Punk tried to remain calm and stoic. But when Owens got under his skin, Punk immediately went to low blows about his weight and his body type. And sure, you can say those are irrefutable points as well, but they're more pure insults, while Owens is stating factual wrongdoing that cannot be argued. It's why Punk is the clear heel side in this feud, but it's also why everything he says would land much, much harder if WWE was willing to commit to legitimately turning him heel. Straddling the line with this character, I equate it to when I go get barbecue somewhere and I make half sweet, half unsweet tea. I do it because I want to cut down on the sugar. But the direct consequence is that the drink, it's not as good. Sweet tea is amazing. Half sweet, it's still tasty, still delicious. It's not to the level it could be if I went all in with the full sugar. It's ultimately the same decision being made. Health. In my case, for myself. In WWE's case, Punk's health as arguably their number one star and ticket seller right now. If he was allowed to go full sugar and be the top level industry defining heel we know he can be, this feud would not just be hitting, it would be on absolute fire. It would be rocket fuel. But they're hesitant to pull that trigger because they believe turning Punk full heel is going to impact the bottom line. They're wrong. But WWE is so overly cautious these days, which leads to feuds like this perhaps being an 8 out of 10 as opposed to a 10 out of 10, like it could be. It's okay for logical minds to disagree about the best way to approach this. And if they're going with Punk and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania, they may even be purposefully slow playing it vintage. But it's tough to argue that while this was hot, it could have been even hotter. It's just that would have required a commitment to Punk actually being a heel.
Yeah, it's the same feeling we had with the Roman Punk stuff and Roman and a few different people.
Rollins,
where it's like
recently,
Roman Rollins too, where it's like you don't quite get the full. You're not getting the full reactions you want because the crowd is divided on who they want to win, and there's just several places they've been doing this. Randy Orton, Cody at WrestleMania, like a lot of their main event feuds are babyface tweeners or two tweeners, and while it might look cool on paper, we go right back to the Chelsea Green thing. People want to know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, and they want to cheer for the way they're supposed to cheer. That's generally how wrestling has always worked. And in this spot, a lot of people just love CM Punk and probably will even if he's a heel, but it's not exactly giving Kevin Owens the babyface heat that he needs. And so that's the issue there. The other part, 15 years ago, heading into Money in the Bank 2011, the CM Punk John Cena confrontation a couple of weeks after the pipe bomb, which for my money, I think might be CM Punk's best promo segment ever, this bit here. That segment ends with CM Punk telling John Cena, "You've become what you hate. You are the New York Yankees now."
Right.
And Cena punches him. And back then, Punk was the guy being crapped on for being indie, for having tattoos, for being out of shape compared to all the muscular guys around him. Now we're 15 years later. Punk is bigger and more jacked up than he's ever been. And he's calling the other guy fat. There is a natural babyface heel story here of where Punk has gotten to in his career, where he is now attacking wrestlers for the things that people used to attack him for in terms of what it takes to be in WWE. And if you like emphasize that and lean into that, that creates this big Kevin Owens babyface swell around him, and it's a natural story to tell. And instead, it's two guys yelling about stuff that happened in the past that most of us don't even know exactly what it is. I like the potential for CM Punk and Kevin Owens on paper is great. This to me was nowhere near what they did a week ago. And I think it's because we're kind of getting a little too in the weeds and away from the fundamentals of a wrestling story. When Kevin Owens got fired up in the middle of that about what I was able to do, and I've been waiting to do this, like that's when you could feel the energy from everybody there. So you got to lean into that, because this is now what the third or fourth person we've had CM Punk have this exact same feud with. Rollins, McIntyre, Roman. It's, oh, you left. Oh, you're spoiled. Oh, you're a piece of crap.
Sami Zayn also, by the way, a little bit.
Sami Zayn too. Yeah. Like it's putting Kevin Owens in a very difficult spot for him to make the same points against CM Punk that everybody else is. So don't do that. Lean into the differences between them physically and where Punk has got. Like, I just think there's a real natural story to tell here between these two guys that everybody can understand. That's more than something happened in a Ring of Honor locker room.
No, you're 1,000% right. But that kind of harkens back to what I just said. The issue with running a storyline where you have Owens successfully prove that Punk is a straight up hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
Is that being a hypocrite is a bad thing. It's negative. And if he's going to then come back, Punk, because he would have to answer that accusation, he's got to tear the guy apart. And you can only do that if you're a heel, not a tweener, not a tweener who's playing heel because it's convenient for the feud that you're trying to, achieve at the end. So that is just a base level issue with what they are doing. And the other point you made was salient as well, which is that they spent way too much time in this segment talking about something that happened 20 years ago without being able to provide details that told even fans who perhaps did not know exactly what happened, hey, this actually mattered. It was a big deal. They're just using roundabout phraseology and references, whatever. This segment probably should have been about 4 to 5 minutes shorter. And it probably at the intro should have been Owens referencing it, moving past it. And Punk can make his quip if he wants, but dude, you talked shit about my weight 20 years ago. You ruined my debut at Ring of Honor, the biggest moment of my entire career. All of my friends hate you not only for that, but shit that you've done in the 2 decades since. Then Punk is like, oh, what friends? Why don't you say them? And Owens, it doesn't matter what friends. They all hate you and we're aligned, but that's even besides the point, Punk. Here's the other shit that you have done that is wrong, which was what the remainder of that promo was. And if you do that, and I just said that, obviously without specificity, I'm not doing it in front of an audience, but I just did that in 30 seconds. Owens probably spent like 6 minutes explaining all that shit. That would have allowed them to move on, and the overall promo would have been viewed much hotter and much more positively than it ultimately was because of the slowness and the deliberation that Owens utilized over the first third, maybe even half of that segment.
The way Kevin Owens closed the last promo they did were basically like, everything I do, I try to make sure I don't become you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the foundational point. And what you say is, if you're Kevin Owens, like, yeah, I didn't like you back in the day, but you're right. I wouldn't be here if you didn't do what you've done. Sami Zayn wouldn't be here. Daniel Bryan wouldn't be here.
Right.
Wouldn't have done what he did if not for you laying that path for us. And yet I see what you've become now, and everything I do is to try to make sure I don't become a piece of crap like you.
Right.
And CM Punk tries to say he hasn't changed or blah, blah, blah. Basically, you point to like how Punk has changed, basically. But it's hard because he's the babyface right now. And it creates a difficult setup. So there's a lot of, obviously we're still super into this and the things they can do.
Of course, it's so great.
I think they had too many things they wanted to say in this, and it makes for a difficult segment. The other thing I'll say, when Punk's in the ring with guys who he knows can kind of go a little bit, or he wants to kind of rile up, he starts no-selling everything they say. And I hate when he does that.
I know.
He'll laugh, or he'll interrupt them, or he'll do these things to try to get underneath somebody's skin, and it just messes up the flow of what's going on. It's still a TV show we're trying to present here. And I think it's happened a lot in AEW too, with MJF and Eddie Kingston and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't let the other guy sometimes maybe do as much stuff as he wants as well.
I'm glad you pointed out that despite our criticisms, we enjoyed this. To contextualize it perfectly, I don't know, 99 times out of 100, if there is a Kevin Owens CM Punk segment on television, it is the lead topic on this show. Instead, we started with Chelsea Green, Gunther, Nick Aldis, etc. That on its own explains, yes, we liked it. It was important. We're recognizing that. But it wasn't even the best thing on SmackDown, let alone the best thing in WWE this week. And that should almost never be the case when you have an Owens Punk talking segment. Moving on to wrap up this main event, another triple main event, by the way, all SmackDown. Just tells you how quality that show was on a Friday. Cody Rhodes backstage demanded Aldis get his match with Randy Orton on paper. Aldis ultimately offered Sunday night's main event, which worked perfectly considering it's in Atlanta. Sami Zayn showed up, sarcastically pointing out how Rhodes once again got exactly what he wants when he wants it. And he even has Punk telling him that he can get another title match whenever he says when. Whereas Zayn needs to scratch and claw just to get even a shred of an opportunity. Cody snapped at him, repeating his line from last week that he no longer needs to hold himself back, play nice, and be a good guy because he's not WWE champion anymore. He dared Sami to fight, but Zayn reminded that he's hurt and he pinned Rhodes clean to win that title last time they were in the ring together, so why even bother? When Cody left, Nick asked if Sami can't or won't go, offering to up the stakes and entice his participation by making the match a number one contendership for Zayn, it sounded like, if he was to win. Rhodes' hairline trigger with Zayn has become repetitive, but it's always nice when he shows passion and comes out of his shell. I just wish it happened more naturally rather than Cody always going 0 to 60. It's strange how Aldis remains blatantly biased when it comes to Sami. The dude was about to strip the title from Chelsea in the opening segment, yet he wasn't willing to push a non-title match out 1 week for a guy who is clearly injured. If he shared unknown information about trainers having cleared him or something, that might have worked better. It's also interesting that WWE is putting some damn big matches on regular TV and specials, not premium live events, considering they don't have one until mid-October.
The Sunday night's main event's going to be a pretty big show. So yeah, Cody,
Stacked.
This was fine. It was kind of a lot of the same stuff we've heard for a while, but it makes sense. It moved it forward.
Cody made a full entrance for the scheduled main event, though it was obvious that it would never start given how little time was left in the show. When Sami came out, Randy Orton attacked awaiting Rhodes from behind while he was still in full gear, throwing him into the ring post, hitting a draping DDT. He avoided a crossroads attempt, banging Cody into the steel steps before drilling him with the top part of the steps into the crowd. Rhodes struck him back with a fan's beverage, hit him with a planted metal garbage can that would never exist in an arena. In fact, literally seconds later, we saw normal Rubbermaid garbage cans. Then Cody threw Randy into a metal barricade that legitimately collapsed. I guess TD Garden did not secure it. Going back to the ring, Orton shoved the stagehand to the ground and put Rhodes' body back inside the well of the steps like he did on the road to WrestleMania when he had it leaned up against the announce table. This time, Cody countered with a low blow, bashed Randy into the same well of the stairs with the steel chair shot, and stood over him ready to demolish his skull, only for an agent to pull the chair out of his arms and hold Cody back. Rhodes nevertheless went after Orton again as the broadcast concluded. This is another instance of WWE being close to perfection on something, but just missing it. Why precisely would these WWE officials be standing around in their same spots, thumbs up their asses, as Orton, the heel, raised the chair aiming to murder Rhodes, the Golden Boy babyface? Seconds later, they spring into action to stop Cody, the babyface, from getting revenge on Randy, the heel. It's just not sensible. That was only the final seconds of what was otherwise a well-executed, albeit safe brawl that should lead, I thought, to Falls Count Anywhere. It probably would result in last man standing because you and I never get what we want, but it didn't. The match that's booked for Sunday night's main event, just one-on-one. Still, this successfully raised the rent for their feud, and it's rather ironic how there are so many callbacks to the WrestleMania build. It's like they're directly telling us, hey, we're going to do it right this time. Making this even better was the tease of the match preceding the brawl. There is now another item for Zayn to complain about next week when Aldis refuses to make him number one contender because the bell never rang. Sami will obviously be infuriated and again feel slighted. Will that lead to him interfering in the main event title match and possibly set up a triple threat with Punk and Owens? Strong main event, great hook for next week. That's precisely what you want when you close a wrestling TV show.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, hey, if you don't remember what happened leading into Mania, and we're going back to that. And this time we won't include country music superstar Pat McAfee this time around. So it was good. It was what we expect. The old Randy, 09 Randy Orton type of stuff. So yeah, it was good. It was solid. We're back to where we were kind of several months ago.
Wrapping all this up, I forgot whether I touched on it last week, but the SmackDown main event scene is ridiculous at this point. You have Punk, Owens, Gunther, Zayn, Cody, Orton, Balor. That's 7 dudes. Compare that to Raw. It has Roman Reigns, LA Knight, and Seth Rollins, who was effectively eliminated from the main title picture, plus Oba Femi, who is not focused on the strap. He's just on the show. When I talk about roster disparity, this, along with the women's division, crystallizes it. But the men's main event, where you have so many people you can legitimately believe could contend for the title or maybe even win it, it is blowing Raw out of the water, apples to apples.
100%, partly because of the roster and partly because they finally booked a good show together.
Indeed, they did. Now, look, we got plenty of show left here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Before we get to it, allow the Silver King to remind you here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well. For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to television shows whenever the results call for it. We did one on Friday coming out of SmackDown. You will also get exclusive news, analysis, editorial posts every week breaking down what is happening both on and off screen in the world of WWE. Make sure you support us, get extra content, and keep the show on the air. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Still a ton to cover from Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown this week. And we're going to break it down as we always do by tackling the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
The Usos were all gassed up backstage, mocking Solo Sikoa and doing funny pew-pew gestures as he stoically walked down the hallway early in Raw. LA Knight confronted them. The Usos pulled Sikoa away. They were all gassed up later when they found Jacob Fatu, saying they did what he could not. Jacob was unimpressed, so Jay got in his grill asking whether he's still a punk ass now. Roman Reigns arrived 125 plus minutes into the show. Normal shtick, black SUV, Jacob waiting for him, random stagehand giving him the title he doesn't carry, crowd chanting, acknowledge me, etc. The Usos finally entered, still clowning around with Sikoa in tow. Believe it or not, the warning shot bow phrase, I don't know if you noticed this, it was added to their team entrance music. Decisions are made every day, folks. Reigns stared down Sikoa, who was in all black wearing sunglasses, saying just his presence pissed him off. Roman reminded that he beat Solo's ass in tribal combat, throwing to a video package, but not the Titantron, which is a lost art these days. The idea was that Sikoa acknowledged Reigns already and never should have recanted that. Fans chanted for Solo, so Roman took further offense, acknowledging his nice watch and glasses, said they all came from Bloodline money. Then he stomped the glasses and said he should be on his knees begging him. Fatu stuck Sikoa blind with a super kick and locked in the Tongan death grip until Reigns called him off. As Sikoa convulsed on the canvas, Reigns put over the Usos for getting their job done, awarding them black Ulafalas and calling them his captains. Jacob was clearly infuriated as the Usos mocked their brother back to his feet, and Fatu did not get anything from Reigns. Knight finally interrupted, not receiving much of a response as the crowd has been giving him recently, probably taken down by the negativity of the segment. He quickly took out the Usos before confronting Reigns. Jacob knocked LA down, but Roman prevented further action so he could hit a Superman punch. Then he paused his own attack, demanding Sikoa take Knight out, saying Rikishi was watching him, disappointed he wasn't following his brothers. Solo said I'm sorry about 5 times, but when he pulled all the way back to deliver the Samoan spike, he turned his body and drilled Roman with vitriol. Huge pop. Reigns sold his ass off, grabbing his neck, rolling around on the canvas. It was a complete callback to the Sami Zayn turn at the Royal Rumble, almost a shot-for-shot recreation. Solo held his thumb out to sell the move. Then he hysterically tucked it back into his jacket and then pulled out his pew-pew gun, focusing it on the Usos. He took out Jay with a Samoan spike ringside. Knight hit BFT on Jimmy. Fatu did nothing as instructed, including when Reigns ran at Knight only to eat a BFT counter of a Superman punch. That was brilliant. The faces dapped up and they agreed they owed each other off mic, looking as cool as they ever have together. And this is precisely why we cautioned all of you not to get worked up last week, because this was exactly what it needed to be as a follow-up, hitting every necessary note from start to finish. Granted, the in-show build in the first few promo minutes, they could have been more exciting, but the way the Usos teased Solo is almost like they were teasing us as viewers. And WWE followed through on its verbiage. Sikoa was delivered to Reigns. It was not Sikoa joining the bloodline based on last week's loss. This segment was firmly focused on moving the bloodline over firmly to the heel side, ensuring fans understood you're supposed to boo these guys. It was too murky for a while, but with Punk and Rollins out of the way as challengers, it was past time to ensure Reigns and everyone following him were firmly heels. So while the opening dragged a bit, the goal was to take the audience down into depths of despair before bringing them back up with that Samoan spike. That was done incredibly well. It harkened back to some of the old Bloodline segments when Sikoa was working as Reigns' muscle. They would use the spike as a successful swerve multiple times. Jay grabbed his arm one time. I think Jimmy did as well. The catharsis for Solo was tremendous. That's just the surface level, though. Jacob was great as a background character, showing disgust that the Usos were praised and awarded over him before making Roman suffer for that disrespect by following his orders to a fault. Malicious compliance, if you will. You don't want me to put hands on LA? Okay, Us, eat that BFT then. Add in the Royce Keys friendship element, and you wonder, maybe Fatu's going to get extricated from the bloodline sooner than we expect. Knight may be the next challenger. He was understandably not the featured party in this segment. Despite that, he went over huge, got the crowning moment standing over Reigns. We're almost certainly headed for tag team and singles matches to buy time until Money in the Bank. But when you combine what was accomplished with Sikoa, Fatu, and Knight, plus Reigns getting over as a heel again, eating shit in the main event, and selling his ass off for his cousin, this was an uber successful primary storyline executed extremely well Monday night on Raw. Good.
Yeah, the Usos teasing Solo on the way out, it felt like they were just trying to break him like the whole time, trying to get Solo to crack a laugh because of what Solo's been doing the last couple of weeks, getting over with the comedy. I did enjoy that. And ultimately, everything played out the way it should have. He's not joining the bloodline. He attacks Roman. This whole thing over the last couple of weeks has simply been for the goal of elevating Solo Sikoa to being an even bigger babyface. And that's exactly what they accomplished here. And LA Knight, who's already over, makes for the great damsel in distress, so to speak, who gets involved in that because he's already crazy over with the fans. We've loved Solo and LA together, going on several weeks or months now. And yeah, I like this. And to your point as well, it made clear who's the babyface and who's the heel in this segment. And that's just so important to get the reactions you want to get. And hopefully that continues. It's a theme of this episode. And as we saw with Raw and SmackDown, when you do it that way, it works. The bloodline are heels now. We don't need to cheer for Roman. You can put your ones up and all that kind of stuff, but we are cheering for Solo Sikoa and LA Knight over them.
Right. You want to do the acknowledge me part? Fine. After that, it's booing. Like that's pretty much what they are trying to explain, which by the way is what it was before he firmly turned babyface.
Yes. But this whole thing, it kind of felt like a sped up version of Sami Zayn's, turn on the bloodline.
Right.
In the face of, instead of hitting Kevin Owens, he hits the chair to hit Roman or whoever it was. I think it was Roman at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
so
they're using the chair on Roman, and then this time he used the spike on Roman. Yeah.
They're doing a lot of the old bloodline hits at a much kind of truncated pace, which is fine. It's not nearly as good as it was, but at least we're elevating a kind of a new person here in Solo.
The outcome of this segment is a paradigm of why Reigns' schedule is so problematic. He's not back on TV until the first Raw in September, which is being taped like 3 days earlier. That means we are not getting follow-up to the Samoan Spike or Fatu's in action for 2 whole weeks. The follow-up here needs to be immediate. And considering, this is what I was just talking about, considering there's no kind of co-main event on Raw besides this storyline like there is on SmackDown, it's going to bring down next week's episode because there's nothing super meaty. Like if you don't do Punk and Owens 1 week, okay, you can do Gunther Balor or you can do Cody and Randy. But it's only Reigns, Knight, and Sikoa, the bloodline situation right now. There's nothing else on Raw. And that is precisely the issue.
I love LA Knight and think he's a main eventer. Asking LA Knight, Solo, and the Usos to carry Raw is a tough ask.
When they were already doing it going into SummerSlam because of their 6-man. They were heavily featured on the build for this.
We've seen Solo versus Usos and LA Knight like a million times.
Yeah, and we've already seen the 6-man.
Singles matches, tags, like it's not fresh, and when Roman's not there, it all feels less important.
Right, like if next week is Knight and Sikoa against the Usos, we basically saw that match at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Here's a doubly fun side item that many of you may have missed during the segment. Reigns took time to put over Sikoa's watch. Solo is wearing what was nicknamed the John Mayer, a yellow gold Rolex Daytona with a green sunburst dial. It's a $75,000 watch. Solo was gussied up in stark contrast to Knight, whose watch you'll remember Reigns dissed. At the end of the segment, Knight took his watch off and threw it at Reigns, saying, "You take it. I have 10 more." It's just a couple fun nods also to the point that Roman previously made about his family getting paid well and how they should all be thankful for him creating that possibility. So you had Solo wearing a watch. Okay, it was not a $500,000 watch like Roman was wearing with the Royal Oak a couple weeks ago, but a $75,000 watch is nothing to thumb one's nose at. And it is a stark contrast to LA Knight's $100 to $300 watch, whatever he was wearing.
Yeah, it's again, that's like a little thing that LA Knight is always really good at.
All right, let's move to this Lucha Libre #1 contendership tournament. Before we break down what happened on Raw, there were a few key developments from AAA as it pertains to the tournament. We're only going to cover one of them on this episode, which was Penta's opening promo targeting Reigns. There's a more involved story with Penta and AAA. We'll cover that on Thursday's episode in our normal breakdown. The crowd was obviously wild for him. He spoke to Roman through the camera, saying he's never faced a luchador or a man like Penta who has scratched and clawed to earn his place. And he said, unlike Reigns, whom he respects, he never needed a family or faction to reach his goals. This showed a better understanding of Reigns' character and motivation than we see on Raw most weeks. The storyline coming out of this involves his faction comment and Los Perros del Mal, and again, we'll cover that later this week. But it was a strong, short promo from Penta, and as I watched it, I wondered to myself, is there any world in which WWE lets Penta win? Because Reigns is off TV the 2 weeks immediately after the Mexico City show. He doesn't return until the go home for Money in the Bank. You could put the title on Penta, flip it back to Roman in New Orleans. Huge rematch on the show, month-long run for a surprise champion. What do you think?
No. It everything about this Lucha tournament is like stalling any type of storytelling they're trying to tell right now around the main event. If you're going to have Roman drop a title, it's got to be to somebody just bigger and more involved in something than Penta.
I mean, Penta had a long Intercontinental title reign. He's one of the most popular superstars on the entire roster.
No, look. Now, could they, considering they're going all out here?
I'm not asking will they. I'm asking could they. That's the specific question.
I mean, like, look, if you were to tell me WWE's going all out to try to
win Mexico,
push up AAA, to get it to get its own separate TV deal so it's not on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I mean, I guess I would, because frankly, I would have been surprised they were even doing this whole tournament in the first place. So, like, is it possible on those grounds? Yes. I don't, not to me on the grounds of like Penta's red hot, put it on him. It'd be really random. It
would feel a little bit random, but man, talk about a home field advantage in Mexico City at that show. The crowd's going to be rabid. If he has backup of any kind, like, I don't know. Most likely is that it will be an incredible match akin to, I hate to bring it up, the Reigns Balor Demon match, where you really thought late in that match Balor was going to win the title, and then of course they did the act of God bullshit. But like, that's my guess. It's booked in a similar way where they are telling you as a viewer, Penta, he could be World Heavyweight Champion in WWE. He just didn't win this match.
I tell you what, I had not actually really thought about what the environment for that match could be.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, thinking back to the World Cup in England versus Mexico in the Azteca.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think they've done a Raw there in, what is it, 15 years, they said? Like, and it's the big arena, in Mexico, like Mexico City.
Yeah, I guess I've been thinking about the tournament, not really thought about the end result too much, but really that scene is going to be fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, the other option, we're talking about Reigns being...
Like, there's a chance that's crowd of the year.
Oh, yeah, for real. Yeah, 100% chance.
Yeah.
We're talking about Reigns being booked as a firm heel. That's another way they can utilize this, where he just does something to Penta that's so despicable. He gets so much freaking heat, and they're able to carry that over moving forward, too. But look, if Penta doesn't win here, I believe more than I did before, there's a legit possibility that Knight wins at Money in the Bank, if that's where the match ends up happening. Reigns is going to need a couple months off, you would assume, going into WrestleMania season. And it does feel like this is as hot as LA Knight has ever been. When I say that, I mean as a main eventer capable of winning a title.
in terms of like in another time of the year on the calendar.
It's the best time of the year to make him champion.
It would be. Yeah.
Okay, moving over to the tournament itself, Rey Fenix against El Fiscal, obviously a non-title match. Each got brief taped promos before the bout, but Fiscal was clearly positioned as just another guy. Didn't even get to see his entrance. Dude looked like he was that one Power Ranger in his black and gold gear. Conversely,
the Gold Ranger who had the best entrance theme in all of Power Rangers.
Okay, yeah, I don't even know
definitely
what their deal is, but I just remembered that visual. Conversely, Phoenix's entrance was excellent, probably his best one yet. Phoenix landed a handspring cutter, Michael Cole called it a springboard, plus Adios Amigo and an Escalera splash ringside. Fiscal dominated the middle part with a discus lariat, but Phoenix took over with a springboard moonsault and avoided El Martinete, a spinning tombstone pile driver. Then he won with a Mexican muscle buster. This was a better representation of their skill sets than Penta and Laredo Kid last week. It felt like 85% of the same match we would have seen in AAA, the difference being the commercial break. It naturally slows down the middle portion. Fiscal got more of a chance to shine in the ring, less space for his character compared to Laredo, and it was cool for him to be on Raw nearly 30 years after his father's lone appearance. He definitely flashed. B-level match, good.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the other guy, but it was good wrestling. Crowd got into it enough for people they don't really know on the show, so good.
Dragon Lee fought Dr. Wagner Tercero, also El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. You can pick the name. Been telling you all that Wagner has one of the best entrances in wrestling, but if you're an American, guess what? You did not get to see it. Ridiculous.
So dumb.
Even worse, Michael Cole played some gimmick about not understanding the dude's name. It was insulting not only to Lucha Libre, but like the family's legacy. I'm all the way out on Cole right now. The crowd was dead for this until Dragon went on a nice run in the middle, preceding a strong chop exchange that livened up the fans massively. He landed the hanging double stomp, but Wagner answered by catching and powerbombing Lee over the ropes, adding a huge frog splash and superplex chaser. Dragon ultimately countered Wagner driver into an inverted DDT that was similar to Operation Dragon, which he landed immediately afterward to advance. This was the definition of wrestlers winning over a crowd. Fans care about Dragon, but only to a certain degree, and they had no reason to give a damn about Wagner, yet they were fully invested in both guys by the time it ended. I'm glad that Dragon advanced because his booking has been inconsistent on Raw. It sets him up for what could be a legitimately awesome match against Phoenix, a legitimate dream match between two guys with extremely similar skill sets. However, pushing Wagner into the second round, it would have been cool, and it certainly would have helped promote AAA better. Probably should have been going against Penta instead of La Parka. Smart people can make cases each way, but it was undoubtedly good. Best match of the tourney so far, 3.75 stars, B+.
Yeah, good match. Again, I don't know the other guy. The crowd doesn't either. Dragon Lee, pretty much everything he does is people don't care about him. They get him wrestling. People get into it. They cheer. Then the next time he comes out, they've completely forgotten everything again. And it just repeats every time because he's a really good wrestler, but that's about all there is. Good match. I enjoyed it. So this is down to what, the final four now?
Final four. It's going to be Penta against La Parka and Phoenix against Dragon.
Yeah, so 3 of the 4 are WWE guys in the tournament. As someone who does not watch AAA, how do you feel? Myself, I'm asking you, how do you feel about that?
Look, WWE is the big time. Even though AAA is a brand under WWE and it's the big brand in Mexico, according to WWE, CMLL, of course, is right there with AAA. Many people would say it's better. WWE is like where everyone aspires to be, even in AAA. Like these guys, Fiscal and Wagner, were tweeting about how special it was to actually appear on Raw, right? So those wrestlers should be seen as better in general and should go over in most circumstances. We have seen so many occasions in which the best wrestler or the biggest star has not won a tournament match. And to create momentum for AAA with the main roster audience, I believe at least one of their wrestlers should have beaten a main roster superstar just so they could say, wow, what an upset. Like, this guy is so great. You should see him in AAA and so on, right? The problem is the only person who advanced, La Parka, wrestled another AAA wrestler on that show. So you didn't even see him advance with both guys featured on Raw. That's my bigger issue. If you had run, let's say, La Parka against Wagner on Raw and Wagner advanced, or if they put Wagner over Dragon, then I would have found it to be
you got to put him over
refreshing.
WWE guy. You put two AAA guys nobody knows on TV, you can watch those ratings plummet.
Yeah, like they had Laredo. Yeah, you're right. They had Laredo Kid, Fiscal, and Wagner, who all incredibly talented. Laredo having an incredible year, but it's like they're not gonna take a regular audience member who doesn't have promos for them or anything to latch onto and say, wow, you got to watch that product, especially when they're wrestling a match with a commercial break and they're not able to go 100%. So
yeah, I think about like the John Cena retirement show with the NXT versus main roster, and you got like Sol Ruka beat Bailey and stuff like that.
Exactly.
There was putting the new person over the established person that make you go, oh, maybe I should watch NXT for Sol Ruka.
So that's why, like, despite Dragon being a sensible winner and it being a good decision for his Raw booking, if you really were focused on helping AAA, Wagner probably should have beaten him. And Wagner in that match proved he was at least at the same level of Dragon. Like, I thought he was going to win at one point, but I'm not angry at the booking. At the same time, it's going to be 3 out of 4 semifinalists, WWE superstars, which is your point. The finals are going to be 2 WWE superstars, and probably Penta, who was the favorite to win the tournament, is going to be the one facing Roman. Like, it would have been ridiculously cool if it was Phoenix or if it ended up being Wagner somehow. But again, to your point, you want the biggest match possible on that show. So that's why they're doing it the way they're doing it. As a social media exclusive, Dragon and Phoenix put each other over in the locker room ahead of their semifinal. Penta then met up with his brother, gassed him up, and they did a super clean dap. We posted it on Twitter so you can hear it. 4 out of 5 stars on the dap. I said this last week, but running a Lucha Libre tournament in frickin' Norfolk and Buffalo, rather than in the Southwest or at least major cities, Boston, New York City, Brooklyn, wherever, where there's larger Spanish populations, was an interesting decision from a scheduling standpoint, especially if you are not establishing the AAA talent on TV ahead of time. So that's something else they could have done, is had these guys wrestle other people on Raw in the preceding weeks so you know about them, and then they go into these matches and you maybe care about them a little bit more. This is how it goes. Again, it's going to be Penta, probably Phoenix in the finals. And at first, Vintage, I thought, I can't believe they're going to run that in the finals of this tournament. They should save their first meeting in WWE for something more meaningful. But this is the number 1 contendership for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yes.
That's pretty much as high stakes as you can get, unless one of them is world champion.
Are they brothers in WWE canon?
They are.
Have they said that?
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed. So you agree with that? You think it's going to be Penta Phoenix and then Penta winning?
Yes.
All right. Stephanie Vaquer opened Raw, walking out to the ring. And how the hell can I even describe this? Oh, I know exactly how I can describe this.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
You know what that means? The Hey Now Championship is back on the line. Stephanie Vaquer, and what she wore on Monday night going up against Liv Morgan, the white top, the jean shorts, black shorts, whatever they were, and the nude underwear. Vintage, this is quickly becoming the Stone Cold versus The Rock feud of the Hey Now Championship's history. Vaquer was an insanely strong contender 3 weeks ago, less so last week. Her look on Monday was so Hey Now caliber that between her first and second segments on the show, she had to close at least 1, if not 2 buttons on her top. If you look at the 2 clips, she looks completely different from in-ring to backstage. I'm going first. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I maintain it now with this new getup. Vaquer rinses Morgan and should be the new Hey Now champion. But Vintage, it requires a unanimous vote. What say you?
I mean, it's been clear that ever since Stephanie Vaquer came back, she's had her eyes on getting her championship back, and also getting the Women's World Championship back as well. So this is a title change. Absolutely. From the moment she went out, from the moment she walked out, I was like, we're done. I almost wanted to dock the points for what you pointed out about later backstage.
Yeah.
Because it is technically the same outfit on the same show, but we're just counting, I guess, that in the ring segment title change.
Well, that would be like discounting Liv's WrestleMania appearance because she was fully clothed at first and they stripped her. So it's like, oh, well, she wasn't naked the entire time, you know, or whatever you want to say, because it was nude colored gear. Regardless, and new Hey Now champion, Stephanie Vicaire. Well freaking deserved. Vintage, I think this is going to be a long reign.
It very well could be. I know a lot of people have been mad at me in the Slack over Liv for the last week or so, but it wasn't going to last forever. We knew it, and here we go.
A little bit longer than I would have liked, than I believed she deserved. Solid reign for Morgan, her second really strong reign this year. Vicaire might be on a year-ending reign. We'll find out. Only a few months left in 2026. Back to the action. Vicaire in her promo was still focused on the World Championship, saying she was done with talking because wrestling is her first language. Liv answered the call out, first dismissing Becky Lynch's claim that she was ruining the lineage of the title, saying she's a champion for herself and no one else. Then Liv laughed about the concept of worrying about Vicaire, given she beat her in 8 minutes at WrestleMania. Vicaire dared her to meet in the ring. Judgment Day instead attacked 3-on-1. She rather easily cleared the ring before the numbers advantage became too much. Lynch obviously saved, and I just want you to listen to the crowd when Becky Lynch ran out.
In this 3-on-1 situation as Vicaire, a sitting duck. Or does it? Here comes Becky Lynch.
She accidentally bumped into Vicaire at one point, leading to a shoving match as Raquel Rodriguez kind of threw herself out of the ring, which looks stupid. Becky ultimately got thrown into the ring post before Stephanie took a code breaker and pop rocks. Extremely paint by numbers segment that did not advance the story one iota. In the same spot after it ended as where it started, certainly an odd decision to have the best talker of the 5 not speak a single word. And it's frustrating how Raquel and Roxanne Perez have largely become background characters for Morgan. WWE has gotten away from Judgment Day being a living, breathing faction backstage that interacts with one another in the clubhouse. And they've all become so much more boring because of that. There's no intergroup dynamics to latch onto. And it looked like Raquel and Roxanne were building characters, Roxy especially getting frustrated with Liv. Raquel just won the Intercontinental title. She's not cut a promo or had a personality segment in weeks. This is something that would be insane to me, but it's a microcosm of how poorly the women's mid-card is booked. Anyway, back to Vicaire and Liv and Becky primarily. I'm giving this a light good only because it was not bad, but it did disappoint that nothing really moved forward or progressed.
Yeah, like it was entertaining, but ultimately didn't mean anything. Your point about the Judgment Day is correct. I mean, to not really have followed up on Raquel is just such a problem. Also, the belt was not covered in barbed wire.
I was going to mention that.
What was up with that?
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, actually. They pulled it immediately. Last week it was regular. I missed it. And this week it was back to normal as well. So I guess they heard everyone talk about how it looked incredibly stupid.
I mean, I didn't think it looked stupid. It just didn't really make sense, is all. But anyway, I've been curious how Becky's music would work, given how it starts with the kind of drawn out guitar sound, but going right into the kind of main beat worked, and the crowd recognized it and they reacted. Good stuff there. I enjoyed it. It was a good way to start the show with Stephanie and Liv and Becky, like to emphasize that this is a big deal and important. But other than that, not much happened.
Yeah. By the way, the women opened both shows, and I believe they got the final match preceding the main event segment on both shows this week. And
that feels like a response to people criticizing the women's stuff for the past couple weeks.
It does. They still need more on Raw. SmackDown got a lot more time for the women across the board, but Raw, I mean, it still needs like another segment or two, but steps in the right direction. We shouldn't have to worry about this stuff in 2026, and yet we're still talking about it. Vicaire backstage cut a promo about the Judgment Day numbers game and fighting Perez next week when Lynch sarcastically clapped in her face as an interruption, saying she messed up their counterattack earlier. Stephanie warned Becky not to become her problem like Roxanne. Lynch said she's not her next problem. She's her biggest problem, considering they're going after the same title. Then she turned the sarcasm back up, pointing out the numbers game would still be against her next week. Much better, leveling up the angst between the two top babyface challengers. Vicaire-Perez matches, the two that have preceded this one happened in NXT, one on Raw last year. Both were excellent. That's a positive booking too. We're getting that on TV. It does seem to me like a triple threat is the obvious build instead of going one-on-one, one-on-one, and then moving into the triple threat after. But regardless, this was so much better than the opening segment. Good.
Agree. Good. It does feel like we're getting to a triple threat, which is more refreshing. Like we've seen Liv and Stephanie quite a bit, and Becky just adds another level of star power to it. It's a big time match. So assuming that's what happens, I hope it is what happens.
Sol Ruka fought Lyra Valkyria. This was not a number one contendership for the Intercontinental title, but it was effectively one. Before the match, Valkyria got a dark, smoky promo backstage about how she was the first ever IC champion, destroyed a legend in Bayley, only to be immediately cast aside while everyone was focused on Ruka, who is so special and so perfect. Valkyria said that she can do everything in Ruka's arsenal. She chooses not to do it because that's where mistakes are made. Lyra promised Sol that she would crash and burn before she won her title back. Valkyria's entrance came during the break, which would have been problematic without the promo that preceded it. I gave it a break for that reason. Cole again called her the sea hag from Widow's Bay, which she does not look like at all. It's also an idiotic reference. She's her own character. She's not trying to be someone from a comedic horror show on Apple TV. Sol was largely in street clothes, which was odd, as was the heavily technical start, though that played into Lyra's promo. Ruka landed a shotgun dropkick, PK, and step-off moonsault while peppering in some avoidance moves. Valkyria kicked the middle rope out to prevent a springboard in a really nice heat-generating spot. She completely grounded Ruka during the break. Strong heel work that was missed by most. Lyra then literally hopped off the top rope into nothing, which looked awful. It was a means of Sol regaining momentum. There was a little girl in the crowd screaming like a banshee throughout this entire match. It was so damn annoying. Ruka pulled Valkyria up into a German suplex. Valkyria then stopped a Sasuke special cold, snapping Ruka's neck over the top rope and hitting a flying leg drop for a false finish. Sol flipped out of Nightwing and hit a tornado DDT, adding Soul Snatcher for the win. The match was strong, far slower than they can work because of the focus on Valkyria being demonstrative and vicious as a heel. As I've said many times before, Ruka's offensive style is way, way too focused on flips and flash. It leads to slow developing spots when she really should be using her talent to work a faster, more exciting, and athletic pace. She's being pushed before she's ready, and there is still way too much choreography. Despite that, this was probably her best main roster match. The Sasuke special counter was particularly great. Borderline 4 stars A-. The true negative here was the horrific booking decision of having Lyra lose to Sol clean as a whistle. A complete and continued wasting away of her momentum coming off the headline-making demolition of Bayley at a huge show. They kept Lyra away from TV for 2 weeks, cooling her off. They gave her a short backstage promo last week, a longer one this week, and it seemed like, okay, they're finally going to invest in this character that they cooled off for no reason. Getting a victory over Sol was the obvious decision to cement that this new Lyra is dangerous. She's capable. She's dominant. Instead, she just loses to a neophyte far less accomplished than her. Ruka would not have been hurt at all in defeat. Yet with Valkyria, we're told she's capable of destroying Bayley, but not beating a rookie? Really? That is trash creative, completely unacceptable. And that alone, despite the high quality of the match, it makes it a light bad for me because it was yet another failed follow-up to a strong heel turn that looked like it was going to work. WWE has screwed up so many of these recently. And even if they truly believed Sol needed to win this match for whatever reason, Lyra at least could have beaten the shit out of her after the bell to get her heat back. Instead, nothing.
At what point do we start to feel that WWE has lost faith in Lyra being more than anything than a low to middle Carter?
I mean,
Because,
they
like,
definitely don't see her as a low Carter, but anything more than a mid Carter, I'm concerned.
Because we're going back several years now, a couple of years to the SummerSlam last year, I think it was, the Becky match, which they highlighted on Unreal and the issue with the handcuffs or whatever.
Yeah.
And they keep like kind of building her up and then not at all paying it off. You know, like they did the Bayley's dual personalities and it didn't go anywhere. Then they were building them up to be tag team champs and they never even got a championship shot. Then you do this turn and it just kind of just doesn't go anywhere. They too often will do a thing and then clearly not have a plan for what comes next. Like if you're going to do the turn on Bayley, you have to know what the next couple of steps are. And instead it just disappeared and you lose here. and it's just nothing. Like, they're not saying you like can't rebuild up Lyra into something, but you've lost all the momentum of whatever this was supposed to be. So I just don't even know what the point is. What is the point of this when she's clearly viewed on a lower level than a Sol Ruca and, you know, a JC Jane and a Raquel Rodriguez and just like a lot of people.
She's not even lower than JC Jane and stuff. Like, Lyra had similar early success as JC did. It's just like they've forgotten that she got over, people liked her. It's like they forgot they turned her heel 4 weeks ago.
And she's such a good wrestler, by the way.
She's
like,
such a good wrestler.
Like, Sol was good, but Lyra like freaking turned this.
And it's not like she's a great wrestler who has no character. Like, she's Wheeler Yuta in AEW or something like that, or Ivy Nile or something, right? She has a character. She can cut promos. We've seen it in the ring. We've seen it out of the ring. These backstage heel promos that she's done. The segment, by the way, last week with Sol and Io Sky was hysterical. And they did another really good promo before this match. And then they just have her lose. Like, what for Sol, to Sol Ruca, clean.
Not only to Sol, but Sol Ruca wearing a t-shirt. And not to make a Kevin Owens comparison here, but Sol's kind of inconsistent with her gear, but it looked like it was a match she wouldn't take seriously based on how she was dressed.
Totally. Yeah. It was weird, man. And you know what? All of this makes me wonder why the hell the Intercontinental title got shifted to Rodriguez. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad Raquel is holding it. But there are so few faces on the brand, baby faces. For her and Lyra to fight in this mid-card, that the title being on a face would have made much more sense, because she could have beaten Raquel, then Lyra could have contended, lost, but then beat the shit out of her, got another title opportunity, and then won. But right now, it's almost useless being on Rodriguez, because Sol, unless you bring down Io Sky or Becky or Stephanie, she's the only babyface that can contend for the Intercontinental title.
We're seeing a lot of belts be placed into groups when they clearly have no plans or thoughts of what to do with it. You've got the Vision has tag team belts, even though Braun Breaker is doing his own story. Fatal Influence are like generally doing a tag team thing, but now it's focused on JC Jane. You've got the women's IC title now in a group where she's the second most important person. And it feels like they're just shoving some belts into places just to exist.
Sure as shit does, man. All right. Charlotte Flair gave Alexa Bliss a tight hug backstage, welcoming her back to TV. Bliss thanked Flair for being nice to Tatum Paxley last week, but Charlotte was clear that she did it for Alexa and has no interest in making new friends. Bliss explained how Paxley reminded her of herself, and then she opened a door to Tatum sitting in a tiny closet with black walls, candles, and a dozen pictures of them. They carefully entered as the door closed. Much later, Jade Cargill said Paxley is the latest on a line of women who cannot mind their damn business. BFAB added that Tatum is just going to be their latest victim. Michin, frankly, looked amazing, but she did not say a word. This would have hit better if WWE had made even a modicum of effort to contextualize Paxley's background for a brand new audience. For those who don't know, Tatum was an outcast who struggled to find friends in NXT, and she fully attached herself to anyone who was even remotely nice to her. Alexa, in 5 seconds, could have told Charlotte, and more importantly, informed the audience, that Tatum is sensitive, she values friendship, and she gets attached easily. So Flair, you need to be extra nice to her. That's all. 5 additional seconds of context. It's nice they're letting Paxley continue her NXT character and not try to fit her into a main roster mold at this point. I'm giving it a good. It just could have been better.
Yeah, like they got across that she's someone who becomes obsessed very quickly. Mm-hmm. Like that character trait was established, but it didn't answer the question of why she showed up or why she helped Alexa. Like what caused Alexa to bring her in? Like that basic question of how the previous show ended was not answered. And now we just think she's weird. Okay, well then why did Alexa bring her in?
Right. She told Charlotte, I think you'll like her. But, okay, why her? Why specifically is she with you now? That's just a miss. Yeah. So what's your grade for this one?
Like good, because it was... We got
short
of it.
Yeah. What was your grade for the prior segment? I don't think you gave it.
Which one was it?
Sol and Lyra.
Bad.
Oh, you're with me. Okay, cool.
Not for the wrestling. Not like the wrestling was a good match, but I just didn't like the book.
Yeah, the wrong winner, or if you picked the other person to win, if you picked Sol to win, then just have Lyra beat the shit out of her after and keep her heat. And they just didn't do any of that. The Vision were interviewed backstage. Logan Paul said last week's success was proof that they run Raw. Maxime Dupree was distracted, putting over Austin Theory for demolishing Alpha Academy. Theory said Obafemi took a cheap shot at him last week, but he's more focused on Dupree and the Tag Team Championship. Braun Breaker refused comment, preferring to address Femi face-to-face, which he tried to do after a tracking shot through gorilla position out to the ring. Paul Heyman interrupted the call-out attempt, so Breaker asked him to choose the future of WWE. Oba finally entered, getting an incredible pop before hysterically mocking Braun's voice, the type of impression you pick up spending 4 years talking to jocks at Alabama. And Femi continued saying everyone, including the fans and Brock Lesnar, they all know he's the future. Femi offered to fight about it whenever, wherever Breaker wanted. Heyman stopped Braun from going off, threatening that they will never have a relationship again if he swings. The reasoning being, this is a big money match between two main eventers. Paul said the future is someone who understands box office and promotion, and he already set up the match for Sunday night's main event in Atlanta, Breaker getting home field advantage. He literally grew up like 30 miles away. Though Braun was about it, he side-eyed Paul, remaining in the ring for a handshake with Oba. And this reference is probably going to be lost on some of you. It reminded me of a scene in The Great White Hype, an underrated 90s boxing comedy movie. The idea being Breaker believes Heyman is on his side, when in reality, he's really just acting as a promoter. There was not much meat to this segment, as perhaps would have been ideal, but there's 2 more Raws ahead. So setting up the bout and continuing the Breaker-Heyman situation worked. And this card in Atlanta, we mentioned it earlier, it is being built up massively. Some huge matches are going down on that show, including this one, another installment of what we love so much right here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast.
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want. No bread, no water, just me.
Good.
Yeah, it was good. I like we're getting to it quickly, and the story is very simple. Like it's just, again, Braun had been the future of the company, and now someone else is calling him that, and Paul Heyman is not like fully backing him. Just a natural, easy story to tell. I don't know what to make of Heyman here. Like, it feels like he's trying to attach himself to Oba without actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's a whole just fascinating setup, because Oba does not need him.
No.
And I hope does not get him. But the idea of, I don't like, who dumps Heyman? Does Oba basically say, I don't want you, or does Braun break away from Heyman?
Well,
I don't know. But
Heyman's not with them. You have to remember, he kind of extricated himself from the Vision. He's not their leader anymore, or their manager.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I guess Braun speared Heyman, but that was on accident, right? So like, I don't know, Heyman being around here, I don't know if he's necessarily needed. Like, we know Oba is great on the mic.
Right.
I kind of want to see how Braun would handle this on his own.
Well,
do they feel like they need Heyman there to kind of just guide traffic?
Here's what I will say. I think that's part of it. You're also going to have a decade, maybe 2 decades with these guys, and Paul Heyman's not going to be around for future feuds between them. This is the first setup, okay? And beyond that, he's been the remaining participant from the Femi Lesnar feud who can give credence to the fact that Femi is the future, the one, whatever you want to call him, which is precisely what Breaker's taking issue with right now. And because Heyman put him over that way and Brock put him over that way, Braun wanting Paul to tell him otherwise because he was his manager just a couple months ago makes a lot of logical storytelling sense. So for me, he doesn't detract from this. I believe he's additive. But if Heyman is not going to be aligned with Breaker or Femi coming out of Sunday night's main event, then he should not be part of anything they do afterward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it just like, it feels like in kayfabe, Heyman lost Lesnar because he retired, and so he's just trying to attach himself to the next big thing, which is Oba Femi, which makes sense for his character and even in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think Oba needs it.
No, he doesn't.
Aura and everything that Oba carries, he's fine on his own. And so I just wonder if that becomes something. If Oba turns down Heyman or something, or maybe Oba wins and Heyman says, "I'm going to represent you," and Oba says no or something. There's something's going to happen with that part. So either way, like the fact that this match is happening at Sunday night's main event, kind of wild, and it might be the thing I'm most interested in. Like there's just so much intrigue with this because it's such a natural storyline that's real and kayfabe at the same time.
I could be wrong, but I believe the only time that Heyman has ever been, whatever you want to call it, advocate, manager, wise man, for a baby face or a tweener face was with CM Punk for a brief period of time. Other than that, he's always been with heels. So there is an interesting dynamic.
And Heyman turned on Punk to realign with Lesnar.
He did. Yeah, he did. There is an interesting dynamic of like Heyman potentially trying to get in Femi's good graces, Oba rejecting him, giving him a trial. Like there is something that you can do. I don't know if it's the best story or exactly what Femi should be doing right now. I'm not inherently against the concept. I also believe that this could be a degree of a red herring because look, dude, on social media this past week, I don't know if you got to see it, but Bronson Reed tweeted a picture of himself. This guy looks like an absolute monster. It looks like he's lost a third of his body weight. He might come back as, if not a main eventer, an upper mid-carder. And the question's going to be, does he stay with the Vision? Does he stay aligned with Breaker if they're not part of the Vision? What if Bronson returns during this match? That way we don't get a result. And they would love to not give us a clean result with Femi and Breaker. Yes. But he gets involved here and it either becomes a triple threat or he's the ace up Heyman's sleeve and Breaker is able to beat Femi because it's two monsters against one. And that kicks off a longer feud between them. You get the opportunity to go Reed against Femi while Breaker levels up and goes after a title. There's a lot of stuff that could happen here. I'm not going to fully judge this until after we see what happens in Atlanta.
A lot of possibilities.
Moving over to the men's Intercontinental Championship, Chad Gable defending against Rey Mysterio. Lots of fast counters and exchanges early until Gable executed a full release German suplex, taking a header into the ring post and eating a ringside hurricanrana into the break. Gable worked the ankle throughout, did a really nice fisherman suplex bridge during commercial. Rey hit a springboard moonsault outside, tornado DDT back inside. Gable caught him off the ropes for what looked like a potential razor's edge. Instead, it was his cliffhanger DDT. He added a flying headbutt before Rey sold his lower leg after missing a springboard. Chad gave him space as a white meat babyface, which allowed Rey a last-ditch effort. Gable avoided a 619, ate a seated senton and tornado DDT counter after he caught a springboard moonsault. Gable's first Olympic slam was unsuccessful, so he landed an avalanche version for a similar false finish. It was not, turns out, Mysterio's last-ditch effort because Rey countered an ankle lock submission into a 619 attempt. Gable intercepted the swinging kick, put him back into an ankle lock. Rey threw him into the middle turnbuckle, hit a 619 in the corner. He had another standard version. The crowd is losing its damn mind until Gable got knees up to block the splash, moving back into an ankle lock, maintaining his grip twice, countering a rolling cover to retain his title. Gable tried to put over Rey after the bell. Mysterio strapped him up instead. Vintage, what an effing match, and what a first title defense for Gable. This was even better than the Penta match at SummerSlam, which is saying something. The biggest reason? Time. Of course. They were allowed to wrestle.
We're wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle.
Rey is 51 years old. He should not be able to go at this level. They were perfect foils for one another. It is rare you get Gable in a situation where he's the larger wrestler and can act like it in the ring. The double 619 setup, it made you legitimately believe, holy shit, Mysterio's going to win this title. They're going to take it off Gable in his first defense. And the crowd sure as shit thought that was happening. That only benefited Gable because he survived a massive test with a near loss scenario. Penta is super over, but no one is more popular than Rey. And this should have been an indication to WWE he needs some type of singles title at some point before he calls it a career. This was the antithesis of Lyra's soul booking. It accomplished so much. It solidified Gable as champion, validated that Mysterio was still a legitimate contender at his age, and got the crowd going wild through the finish. As always, storylines are what put butts in seats. Wrestling is what gets fans out of their seats live at shows. Let your wrestlers wrestle and you will be rewarded. I'll be shocked if there's a better TV match all week on any show. 4.5 stars. The last few minutes put this way over the top. Good.
I was really concerned as this was going on and getting more and more intense that the crowd was going to be unhappy that Chad Gable won, and that ultimately was not the case. And I think it's because he won in kind of a creative, smart manner as opposed to just dropping him for a 1-2-3 and taking the hope out of people. So tremendous match. We know Gable can go. Ray at 51 is freaking insane. Now, can we have Chad Gable rest some heels? Because people wanted Ray to win this match.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a dangerous spot to be for your babyface champion. You're really pushing. But ultimately, the wrestling was so good and the finish was smart in a way that people appreciated it for what it was. And Ray can put Gable over at the end and people will accept it and move forward. So we got there ultimately. Very good.
Well, what you said is true. If you put Rey Mysterio, John Cena, Seth Rollins, it doesn't matter, against a babyface and they're the more over person, the fans are always going to go wild for them wanting the title.
Yeah, I know. My problem was the booking of this match to begin with. But ultimately,
you're right.
They did a good job with it.
You're right. And that's part of the problem is that on his road to SummerSlam, Gable already beat Rusev. He already beat Ethan Page. Like, he beat the heels that are in the mid-card that he needs to contend against. So all that's left, really, are Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough, who aren't really being booked right now, at least not in a legitimate way. So they need to level those people up again. I'm wondering, is Dominic just going to win this title back in a couple of months? Who can Gable fight between now and then? But you're right, and you've been calling it since the beginning. It's awesome that he won the title. We don't love the way it was done. It was a couple of years too late to maximize the response. Now that he's champion, though, you got to keep him a babyface, and you got to let him keep having great matches against heels. And right now, he's not wrestling heels, and that is hugely problematic for his long-term potential as champion. Let's move over to the same title on the other brand, United States Championship. Baron Corbin defending against Carmelo Hayes. Corbin again got a motorcycle entrance. He stayed with the fur belt, which really just tells you Trick's winning it back sooner than later. Melo hit a tope con hero before the bell, stayed all over Baron at the opening with a blind springboard draping leg drop. Corbin caught first 48 cold, countering into a powerbomb as he got legitimate heat with Hayes receiving solid "Let's Go Melo" chants. He even got a 1-count kick out before the blind springboard basement DDT and a frog splash. Corbin again avoided first 48, this time countering with a huge boot. Melo rolled through a powerbomb with a sunset flip cover, only to get caught running with deep six. Melo flipped out of End of Days, twice landing first 48, but he took too long to get to the top rope for nothing but net, so Corbin pushed him off the top rope into the barricade, and then he hit End of Days to retain the title clean. Trick Williams interrupted after the bell. It was a distraction for Lil Yachty to drill Corbin with the trick stick. Corbin eventually got Boat out of the ring, but 8 trick shot from Williams with the faces standing tall at the end. That rematch and title change will almost certainly happen in Atlanta, by the way. The finish was unfortunately imperfect. Hayes missed the barricade entirely when he flew off the top rope, but Hayes was booked well in the match, getting plenty of offense on Corbin and a tremendous response from the crowd. He was also protected a bit with the circumstantial loss when he had the upper hand in the match. Hopefully his booking can get more consistent on the back end. The stuff with Trick was incredibly cookie cutter, and his finisher still absolutely sucks, but the match was the majority portion of this segment, and that was good.
I'm kind of surprised you're not more down on this for Hayes just straight up losing clean to
because unlike in the women's match that we criticized before, he got pushed off the top rope into the barricade and then beaten with a finisher that nobody kicks out of. It's like the most protected finisher in WWE. So circumstantially, I'm okay with it. I don't like that Melo got a match and just lost, but not everyone can win the title every time they contend for it. So
no, I feel like I'm kind of at the same spot with Carmelo that I am with Lyra, and that is it feels like both of them may be at their ceiling of what WWE thinks of them now.
Now, okay. I was going to say not the ceiling for their careers because they're both young, but yeah, go ahead.
No, like not that they can, but just like
in 2026.
Something, yeah, just where they're at right now, something needs to drastically change. Because Trick obviously came up and supplanted him in a way maybe more than anybody expected. And to do this match and to just, again, have him lose clean is not, you didn't come out as thinking like, oh, Carmelo's going to get his lick back or this or that. And they still haven't done the Carmelo Trick stuff either. So He was just kind of here to take a lot, to be a babyface loser to Corbin, to get some more on Corbin, which is not something I would have said 6 months ago when Corbin wasn't even here.
Well, speaking to your points, there were two other notes I was going to make. First, the worst thing to happen to Melo was Trick getting called up to SmackDown. If WWE is not going to let Hayes shine on the blue brand, move his ass over to Raw and get more heels like Rusev on this show. Melo's career should not be based on Trick's existence. They got to figure this out and separate them. Just so everyone is aware, okay? Silver King's agenda, now through October, it's flipped to Melo in the Bank. I know you all want Trick or Dominic Mysterio or Braun Breaker or whomever else to win the briefcase. I'm always up for someone shocking and fresh. And no, I don't truly believe they're going to book Melo to take the briefcase. I'm just explaining this is my agenda over the next 7 weeks.
There you go.
Javon Evans fought JD McDonough. Dominic entered with JD during the break, still fuming over not being part of the Lucha Libre tournament. Javon stormed right past him into the ring, calling out Big Cass with a gold grill firmly in his mouth. McDonough was angry about the interruption. Evans got the match made. Dom messed with Javon early. Evans sold an ankle after he dove into the timekeeper's area. McDonough worked it heavily. Javon landed red dot and a springboard lariat, but ate a huge headbutt and a brainbuster after JD avoided the OG cutter. There was a weird spot on the ropes, but after that, Evans avoided a moonsault, immediately climbing and flying to land OG cutter, getting the win. Super cool finish visually. Javon didn't necessarily need the win, but JD certainly did not, so that was the right call. Still, Evans was portrayed as a dumb babyface because he completely turned his back to the crowd after the bell, and Cass attacked him. This after Javon literally called him out at the beginning of the segment. Cass ran the same play for the third time, standing tall after East River Crossing. When he tried to leave, Evans grabbed the mic, asking if that's all he got. Javon caught him with a kick and tope, but as he was getting his licks back on Cass, Dom threw Javon into the ring post. 2 barricade tosses from Cass, and another big boot ended it. Total mixed bag here. The first phase of the attack was repetitive. Dom's involvement piqued interest, but then Cass didn't do anything with the second phase. It was more power tosses and a boot. Why not do something into the announce table or the stairs or anything extra? Where the hell are Pierce and the officials? Does Javon not deserve protection like other wrestlers on this roster? It is so inconsistent. The greater issue beyond that is that Cass has been on TV, for 3 weeks now? He's been given 0 character development. Also, where was Dragon Lee, who got attacked last week and should have had Javon's back?
He was just getting ready for his match in kayfabe.
And fair enough in kayfabe. But in reality, him saving would have added excitement, gotten a huge pop, and guess what? It would have helped him for his match too. The match quality was there, no question. That buoys the entire segment. But by next week, they need to be doing something to make us give a single shit about Cass, even if it's as simple as what they did with Corbin on SmackDown. I'm going to give this a light good because it was a borderline B+ match, a little bit short, but it's provisional. If we get the same shit with Cass next week, this reverts to a bad.
I'm giving it a bad just because I'm bored, brother, with every part of this.
I'm bored, brother.
Had to bring that one back after a while. I feel like we've seen Javon and JD wrestle like a million times, or maybe it just feels like that in my head.
It just feels like that.
I do.
Yeah.
I want to call out. He had a great sell of the OG cutter. Every time that move happens, I got to credit when it's a good sell because it's a very difficult move to sell. But like everyone's just kind of spinning their wheels here, including Big Cass, and it was nothing. It was just whatever. So giving that a bad.
Completely fair. WWE Tag Team Championship, Damian Priest and R-Truth against the War Raiders and MFT in a triple threat. Proper triple threat rules were applied here. And yes, the Tongans were called MFT, which at least has been changed to Mother Effin' Tongans, as you mentioned last week. But still, man, just pick a different name. Would have been nice. Haku entered with them. Truth helped Priest splash the 4 challengers off the top rope ringside. He landed a nice flatliner coming out of the break. Ivar nearly murked himself on a cannonball off the ropes before Tama Tonga got caught with Viking experience for a 2.99 falls finish. That was unlikely planned to be that close.
Yeah, that felt like a weird spot that didn't maybe go the way it was supposed to.
Tala broke up the Raiders' finisher, only for Priest and Ivar to team up against him with a tandem vertical suplex.
There is beef flying all over the place.
Tala powered out of an STF from Truth. Priest ate a Northern Light suplex from Eric, and then the Viking experience through the timekeeper's barricade. Tama eliminated him over the announce table. They looked poised to end Truth with Cutthroat, but Truth did a split to avoid it and hit the 5 moves of doom to a massive response. However, Tama raked his eyes when he tried attitude adjustment, threw him into Eric, who was climbing onto the apron, and combined with Tala for a pull-up powerbomb called the Brothers Keeper with the titles changing hands. The repositioning of MFT with Haku and this being a triple threat match made it obvious the titles were changing. And it was the right team to emerge of the three, considering none of them are particularly interesting right now. Making it even more obvious was Shinsuke Nakamura's promo last week. The dude is not introducing a tag team to go against another team in a non-title feud. The match exceeded expectations, though it was slow and plodding and exactly what we expected due to nearly all of these guys being 40 or older. The only real negative was the new MFT finisher, which is straight up idiotic. Tama does a lot of work to lift someone into a Tala powerbomb, but once they're in his arms, there's no additional impact. It's the same as any other powerbomb. They need a way, way better tandem finisher to get taken seriously. Solid, necessary title change that makes the division 10% more interesting. So it's a 3 out of 10 now. Good match overall.
Yeah, I'll give it a good. It was good enough wrestling, and we got a title change that mattered, and they're going with, I guess it's MFT and not MFTs.
Well, it's always been MFT, but people say MFTs.
Yeah.
In fact,
so
it used to be MFT because it was my family tree, so pluralizing it didn't make sense. Now they're the mother effing Tongans. So if you called it MFTs, it'd be more correct, but still incorrect. Go ahead.
Yeah, not like RBIs.
Exactly.
It was fine. It was good. I just light good, just because I don't know what this tag team division is. There's like 3 teams, one of which is the AAA champions. So it's just like,
yeah.
Okay, all right. Like, you give them the belt, but until I see a dedicated effort toward tag team wrestling as a whole, it's only so high I can go.
Yeah, I mean, they have been booking the division on TV for like a month straight. So to a degree, credit where it's due. But as I've mentioned, it's all old ass teams. They're bringing in a new old ass team, and the best team, not on the roster, not in the company, in the world right now, is not on TV and it's not wrestling. And that is hugely problematic. Now, I mentioned earlier in this show, there were a bunch of segments that did not make air this week. With SmackDown back at 2 hours until January, the show is struggling to feature most of its roster, which is odd considering NXT has no problem doing it. But even on Raw, some weeks, WWE is producing segments that don't make air, or they happen during a commercial break, and they're just not publishing them on social media, which doesn't make any sense. This week on Raw, there were only 2 commercial break segments, neither of which needed to be posted, so that was a thumbs up. SmackDown had 5 exclusives that I believe only got published on YouTube, so we can go over those. Before we get to them, Paige sent out a tweet angry that her taped promo got cut. And while I am usually sympathetic to this in general, especially for the women's division, I'm even someone who takes issue with it and calls it out here on the show. Situationally, this was not the right show or segment to complain about. SmackDown was loaded on Friday. There was no fat to trim. This simply was not as important as what made TV. That's a whole other topic. These segments were not cut from air. They just did not make air. It's a distinction and a difference. WWE pre-tape segments, they figure out what they can fit on the show, and they ideally post the rest on social media. Suggesting something was cut means another segment went long and it got pulled. I digress. The women were heavily featured in the opening. They got 2 backstage segments, the effective main event match with a title change. The show was not 50-50 men and women. It was close. So again, not the show or segment in which Paige's complaint was going to engender any empathy. Anyway, of the 5 segments that happened, brief breakdowns vintage, let me know what you think. Paige countered all of Nikki Bella's claims in a promo, saying she resurrected her own career, and Nikki asked her to team with Brie, not the other way around. She was just jealous. I understand why she was perturbed it didn't make TV. It was a great promo from Paige. Nothing we didn't know she was going to say. Nakamura got a follow-up promo package in the same style as the last one. This got more than 500,000 views on YouTube, basically tied for second most of any video that WWE published on Friday. That should tell them something. We saw a shadow of Nakamura's partner, who he called experienced, vicious, deadly, chaotic, and a ticking time bomb. That gave away, for those who watch New Japan, the identity of the partner. You can skip 30 seconds ahead right now if you don't want to know. 3, 2, 1. It's going to be Hiromu Takahashi. The Chaos mention was odd because he was not in that faction, but Time Bomb directly refers to his theme and his finisher, a swinging fireman's carry driver. He also carries a stuffed cat to the ring named Daryl. I imagine he'll have a new version of that in WWE. A couple more. Blake Monroe met with Aldis, who said it's about time she gets in the ring considering how many women want to fight her. No shit, Sherlock. Blake agreed, suggesting a title match against Chelsea. Julia interrupted, only speaking Japanese, wanting to beat her ass. Kind of seems like another lose-lose situation unless Julia is getting moved to Raw because she just got run through in 3 minutes by Lash Legend 2 weeks ago. Why not have Kiana James in this spot who can just get beaten? If Julia does get moved, then okay, she can take the L and give Monroe a decent first victory. This was the segment that needed to make air most. No idea how the crowd will react to Blake considering they've barely seen her on screen since debuting. Ricky Saints got into it with Fraxium backstage. Both parties were trying to meet with Aldis. Saints said Phoenix was ducking his contention for the AAA Cruiserweight Championship while the faces wanted tag title action. This was the type of personality segment that would have been great on TV, considering Fraxium does not get many opportunities. And all three of these guys, their personalities sparkled in this segment. And lastly, The Miz and Kit Wilson were completely back to normal, basically deciding their curse was lifted. They talked shit to Cardona, who was selling injuries from Gunther. Danhausen is super over, so I am shocked that WWE just did not resolve this storyline. Vintage, those are 5 segments, all taped, published on social media. Thoughts about any or all of them?
We kind of say like it's better to do this than to not air them, or they're only available if it's Netflix and you have the whatever. Like all those clips that are usually on Netflix that we don't see should be uploaded this same way. And sometimes, like the Nakamura one, you get 500,000 views. Like, okay, like that's a number in which it counts for something. So ultimately, though, none of these were much of anything else. It was fine. You know, we'll see if they explain some of this if stuff happens next week, but it's fine.
As someone who is relatively neutral with people coming in from NXT, do you agree the Blake Julia segment was the one that would have benefited the most to making TV?
I don't know, man. Like Blake's just done nothing since she come up. I don't
That's
think
what
it
I'm
makes
saying.
a difference here.
So
or
the
there.
fans could see her, so they know who they're even talking about. They're going to have a match next week. They don't even know one of the women, basically.
I don't know if that one segment makes that much of a difference.
All right. Fair enough. Well, look, that wraps up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Got it all in, unlike last week, and we're not going to be doing those 2-episode weeks again, at least if we can help it. We will be back on Thursday talking NXT and AEW, so make sure you do not miss that episode, which, by the way, will also have a breakdown of the latest episode of AAA. Completely forgot to mention it. A lot we need to talk about on that show regarding Penta, Dominic Mysterio, Los Perros del Mal, and everything else happening in AAA. So make sure you tune in on Thursday, and then next week, same bat time, same bat channel on Tuesday. Vintage will be along for the ride talking WWE again. On the way out, allow me to remind you to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments to the show. We will read them on the air on YouTube. You can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. You hit the link on our social media profiles. You can join our free Slack channel, which is just getting busier and busier with each passing week. You can also subscribe to the show, shop at WWE Shop, and so much more. Find us on social media at Getting Overcast. And don't forget,
It's all about the fight.
head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. For Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.